All right, so here we go with another game against our friend Lean 82 here. So our opponent is placing first. Initially looking at this board, I noticed that the rock is really in a awkward spot, as well as the sheep. It's a bit of an awkward initial roll off of the tiles here. It's going to be interesting to see where our opponent places their first settlement, because that's really going to dictate what I want to do. So we place it on the 10-8-4. Makes some sense. It's a decent rock spot, the best brick, and a decent wood. So right now, he places his road towards the 4-3-9, which is quite a good tile. And I'm looking at that initially just as to if I want to block that. And I think I do want to block that for my opponent. It's just so good to block that 4-3-9. My opponent is obviously looking to play with some rock this game and some sheep and wheat. So denying that spot is really, really nice. It also denies the 3-9-6 settlement spot. So it's going to be really tough for my opponent to get any decent sheep here. And I was just deciding if I wanted to place somewhere else first and then pick up a development card for free. I decided it's probably more important to get a road early to get a faster settlement. So I build on the 8-3-10 second, getting that road, and I have fully rounded out resources here. The only thing that's kind of lacking is my wheat, but building towards the 5-8 3-1 port, I think, is going to round out our wheat as well. And I really like our placements here. I think our opponent now is really looking at what he needs, and he doesn't have any wheat or sheep, so it's going to be tough for him to get that unless he places on the 2-10-5, which is an option. I just think it's kind of boxing himself in there, and it doesn't look super attractive. The other option is the 12-6-5 to get both the sheep and wheat, but again, the 12 is just not quite not very good resource. Sometimes you don't roll only 12s all game, so it's kind of sometimes a desert of a resource, but sometimes you roll out of 12, so it was an option, but my opponent goes on the 6-5-11 instead. So he's going to have an interesting time trading for sheep, which means he's not going to have any access to sheep in pretty much this whole game. So I think it's going to be quite a tough game for my opponent just off of the initial settlements here. So we get a fast settlement here over to the 8-5 with a 3-1 port, which is fantastic, off to a good start. And we're just rolling tons of wood here now on that 8 and looking to just build more settlements and deny our opponent sheep as much as possible. So here we get a road building towards the 9-10-11. I want to get another fast settlement to get up to 4 settlements really quickly. And 9-10-11 is a decent tile to be on. Gives me more rock, more wood, and more sheep, which is all very good. Now I'm looking at where I want to build my next road out to. I'm really thinking of going to the 3-6 just to get onto that 6. Could build down to the 9-6-2, but I really want more wheat in this game. I don't have a lot of access to wheat right now. And I ended up popping 2 development cards here just to try to get largest army going. Having knight priority is very important in 1v1. You want to deny resources from your opponent as much as possible, and you want to have, of course, the 2 victory points that come from largest army. So making sure you're always 1 ahead is very, very crucial. Because when you tie on largest army, it goes to whoever already has largest army. So if you have 3 and they have 3 knights that have already been played, then you get to keep it if you were playing your knights first. So having priority is very, very important in 1v1. And of course, just denying resources from your opponent and making sure they don't deny you is very, very crucial. So our opponent now just has a lot of roads and not a lot of resources to use for settlements. And they're just trying to use up the resources. So you can see that not having sheep is really hindering them in this game so far. So now you can see that 6 rolled a lot already. I really want to get over to that 6 sheep. It's really important in any game to have access to your 8s and 6s. Obviously, they are the most rolled numbers, the highest frequency being 7, and then 6 and 8s. So you want to be on 6 and 8 as much as possible and get those resources rolling in. So we build our settlement on the 3-6, so now any 6 rolled will get that sheep, which is really nice. Go ahead and place our knight here on our opponent's wheat, and then we roll a 7, so we place it on their 8. Both of these resources are good to place on. My opponent's obviously building up to the wheat with the 2-1 rock port, so placing on the 8 might be better just because it denies them more brick long term, but either is a good block. We pop 2 more development cards here, again trying to keep that large enemy priority and getting more development cards coming in. We get the road building and a knight. So now I'm looking at how I want to place my roads. It's very important in 1v1 that you maintain access to longest road and that you don't waste roads if you can avoid it. It's not always possible. Sometimes you have to place roads in such a way that you give up longest road potential. But if you can avoid it, you typically should try to place in such a way that you can get longest road. So far, neither of us have wasted any roads, so it's possible for either of us to get it and maintain it. So I want to keep that possibility up for myself. And you can see that it ends up coming in handy in this game. So typically in 1v1, you want to deny the resources that your opponent A needs the most and B that give them potential to win the game. So blocking this brick is very, very important for me right now. My opponent has no access to sheep still. They haven't built on the 12, and in order to get much going for themselves, they're going to have to build more roads and build more settlements. So blocking that 8 is going to be really, really nice for me. Because my opponent's just going to have to trade for either development cards or upgrade to cities, but they're not going to have access to more settlements unless they trade for it. Blocking the 5 or the 6 is also quite nice, but I think blocking the 8 is just what they want anyway, so blocking 2 resources every time is going to be quite nice. So we build our settlement on the 2-5 with the 2-1 wheat port. I'm not really concerned about the wheat port. It's unlikely I'm going to be trading my wheat away that much, but just having another settlement, getting more sheep and more wheat is always nice. Having more wheat is going to be crucial to getting more cities, and I'm building in such a way that I can get longest road and continue buying development cards as well. I'm at the point now where I need to upgrade to cities and need to buy more development cards. So my opponent now is building in such a way that they have given up longest road access, which is great news for me. It means that we still have potential to get maxed out longest road and our opponent does not. So that is a 2 victory points if we ever need it. So far our opponent isn't contesting us on it, but there could be potential for that to happen, especially with them having cities on the 10 and 8. So here we get a monopoly and then our opponent rolls 2 8s. So this is just going to be a really nice pull. We get so many roads out of this and we deny our opponent that access as well, which is very, very crucial. And now my opponent types GG in the chat. A little premature, but you know, I see why they do it. I mean, we're just in the driver's seat here at this point. All we need to do is build a couple cities, buy a few development cards, and really this game is almost over at this point. It would take a bit of a miracle for our opponent to come back from this. And we're just in such a dominating position. We've had the rolls early on. And our opponent just, having no access to sheep whatsoever is really their detriment in this game. I think if they could go back and place their second settlement differently, they probably would. I think placing on the 2-10-5 even was a decent option for them. Would have given them complete resources. And, the 2 obviously isn't great, but it's something. Could have placed on the 12-5-6 as well, but they did not. So at this point, I guess they also could have placed on the 3-6, but that would have been quite bad. But my 4-3-9 really came in handy this game. And now I end up building longest road maxed out just because I can. If I was playing super optimally, I wouldn't have even built the road, trying to just save up to trade in resources for a city. But at this point, I figured it's pretty much over, and it doesn't really matter what I do. Just waiting for the rolls to come in now. My opponent's doing whatever they can to buy development cards, trying to get victory points, but it's not going to be enough for them. They obviously are coming close to contesting us on largest army, but again, you see it comes in really handy here as we buy our last city. We had the priority on largest army, so even though they tied us, we end up getting the 2 victory points, so that's great. Now just showing the stats. Some people like to see this. But yeah, that's a game.